going to walk to. And here's a photo we took today. What happens when a car, there's not even enough room between the home and the car. When we create space along the street, we can do some wonderful things with the walks. This is Dean Parkway. It's probably 80 years old in Minneapolis. It's a 6-foot wide walk, plenty of width for a couple to walk side by side. Why do you need to walk both sides of the street? And it totals 7, 8 feet. You have a walk one side of the street if there's no traffic. People are going to cross the street anyhow. So it's less pavement. Now this is a plan in Sioux Falls. There's no connectivity for driving or walking, but yet, like Fargo, there's a walk both sides of the street. So when we look at the site, there's an existing trail, there's a lake, there's an existing street to the east, and a highway to the south. The first thing that we do now, and this is what we train, is we draw the walking path first. How are you going to walk around the site? Before you draw anything. If the walks are an afterthought, you are not going to create a walkable neighborhood. In this case, it's a flat site. We can put a straight walk to the lake, and you plant little cheap trees that 20 years later become magnificent trees. And now it's a visual right to the lake from that trail. And then we design the neighborhood around it. The streets, the minor walks, and we create this wonderful place to live where everybody's connected to the neighborhood. And every experience, every place you go, the visuals change. It's constantly alive. And yet we have much greater density, much less street, and much better connectivity. But the theme is walking. So it will encourage a walk if you can actually go someplace. So you got to figure out where are we going to go on the site. What's our destination? And you'll see some answers in that in a little bit. This is how the industry operates. We're going to show you how we can solve this. Architects don't talk to... How many of you are consultants that don't talk to each other, architects and planners and engineers that are not going to go out to a nice dinner together? It's different personalities. And they almost are working against each other. There's this situation with our industry. There is no common knowledge base. We need this to happen if we're ever going to deliver on the promise of sustainability. We need that to happen. So we're going to show you how architecture becomes a main function of planning. In Prefurbia, there's two methods I'm going to explain. One is called architectural shaping. Until the 1950s, or I'll argue in Fargo until the 2011s, you had a two-shaped, you had a rectangular home and you had a rectangular lot. That was it. In most cities, the suburbs have gone curvilinear. So you have three-shaped lots. In fact, with coving, you have two-shaped lots. You have an inside pie and an outside pie. With most suburban developments with curves, you have an inside pie, outside pie, and you have some rectangular lots. Yet the model's homes are only rectangular. Look at all the space we're wasting. When you look at what's happening in Fargo in particular, to get density, homes have gone narrow and they've gone deep to make the numbers work. So you end up with this type of home. Actually worse than the situation I just showed you. So you've lost that connection in the front and the rear, and then most of the windowed area is looking directly at your neighbor. And when you look at the volume of, and this isn't just Fargo, this is everywhere in the U.S., because we are trying to get those numbers up. But are we making it more livable? And if we take advantage of the shapes of coving or a curved subdivision that's already there and use that side yard and create two more model series homes. One is an outside pie or a cul-de-sac lot where you are connecting more of the living area to the back. The home gets less deep. And the other would be an inside pie, the inside of the curve. Coving, every lot's inside or outside pie. So we're taking advantage of the lot shapes that are already in the suburbs at the architects don't take advantage and the builders don't take advantage of the side yard. That side yard gets unused. We can use that. The ordinance might say so-and-so side yard. Why not use it? That space is available. So this is an example of how that works. We have a model home on the lower left. The one above it has been shaped. The garage knocks over, so it's been shaped to take more advantage of the lot. We can fit a bigger home on that lot. It's slightly more livable. We have more street presence. The outside pie, that floor plan will not work. So we go and we say, draw it again. Give us a floor plan that works, that gives us that tie to that lot. So this is architecture has to really be as a forethought in the planning process to pull this off, not as a afterthought after the streets go in. When you look at the detail of the plans from an aerial view, you don't see this kind of detail, but it's there. Now, if we're creating shapes around the home, that means that we have to take and get a series of floor plans that the interior, where you hang out, actually will look at the outside. So, an example, this is my house. And if I built these two windows, I would have to be at the left side of the home to view the space around my house. But in my house, I planned it like a Prefurbia neighborhood, and I planned it to take every room is designed, and the interior design of the house is to look at space, front, side, rear. Now, how does this work at urban densities? So I want you to look at that image and then look at this plan. That's 15 units per acre. Every unit on here has at least that amount of window wrap, at least. So we've tied the living space to the space around it, but we're not looking at parked cars. And yet we have a third more parking spaces than the new urban plan that exists above it. We can create urban high-density developments that are still very green in nature. We are over-paving this planet. Look at the view out of these sides of Fargo's homes. There's a view there. There's a view of space, but all you got to do is put a window there, but it's not on the floor plan. And look at the opportunity that was lost. Part of that is the CAD technology that people are using is hard to visualize. So when we take and we get a floor plan in, is the planning process, is we are then connecting space. In this case, this is a Williston floor plan. So we look at the positive points, and we go, wait a second, this has got a lot of waste here. Are you sure you want to build this? We have to voice an opinion. We have to work as a team, and we have to create efficient, affordable housing. This is affordable housing. And we can't do it if there's waste. Another form of technology where it's spatial and graphic can tell us exactly where the living areas are, where the windows are. So when we design it, we could start looking differently instead of a line drawing, because for the last 25 years we've been stuck in the line drawing phase. We have to move beyond that and get a lot more information. And we have the power to do it. So when we look at the architectural integration, that's very important. So we need to build collaboration. Another thing to talk about is commercial. This is for some reason, it's logical to have a strip mall, have the loading docks, and put the highest density, the most people behind the loading docks. Somehow that's logical. That's how we build this country. So these elderly housing residents look at this out their window. That's their view. That's the other side of the truck. You were hoping for a wetland. This is what you get. Not a great situation. Look at this. The loading docks, you put the highest, put the most people. People are people. I don't care if they're low income or high income. We've all probably been low income at one point in their life. So what can we do about this? Why do we have to build commercial with loading docks next to residential? What if we can put end-loaded, bay-loaded, different types of commercial where the back end of the commercial matches the residential character, and we take that walk system, put it right through a pedestrian corridor in that commercial, now we have a social space. So we make a destination. That's called a neighborhood marketplace. So we're pushing people into the commercial from both sides. It's still a strip mall, still gets the traffic, but it becomes an asset, not a liability to the neighborhood. When we talk about regulations, how can we encourage developers to do that? That's in the book Prefurbia. Reward developers. When we look at Fargo development, those little narrow lots, they got to be in the ordinance somewhere. They got to be allowable. Why would you give someone a small lot? Why would you gift that to them? Let them earn it. Make that R3 zoning 10,000 square foot, not 4,000 square foot, and say, look, give us architecture, give us these values. You get another 1,000 square foot. Give us a walkable system that works. Here's another 1,000 square foot. Do lead the developer. Developer wants density. Lead them to density. That's what we call rewards based. You don't have to change your ordinance necessarily. You reward good development. And as a city, you've got to figure out what that is. I can't tell you. Every city is going to be different. Land use transitions. You showcase, or that's not you, every city kind of showcases the highest density, cheapest homes along arterial streets. Makes the whole city look cheap. But the problem is a developer is doing a mixed-use development will also put the most people behind the commercial. They'll put the cheapest homes at the entrance. That doesn't increase the value of the bigger homes behind it. The only people with open space will be the rich people. It's not sustainable. But ever since Levittown, we've adopted this, model. And what we've done in the last 15 years is we've reversed that. In other words, we put a nice form of housing along arterial roads. Makes the city look better, makes the development look better. People who enter it feel better. And we'll kind of intermix the uses a little bit. Again, people pass through nicer housing to get home, and we don't put the most people at the worst space, and we'll spread the open space throughout, and that's a more sustainable model. So those are more land use models. So Prefurbia is not only about satisfying the purpose and intent, it's about exceeding it. How do we overcome the problem of the consulting industry where there's no communication? That's a big problem. We could talk all day long. We have to solve that problem. The medical industry has a common knowledge base of medicine. The land development industry has no common knowledge base. So we had to create it. And the problem is you have left and right brain people. You have two completely different talent groups, and you have two completely different personalities. And you can't make them all go back to college. They're not going to do that. And you can't make them give up 2 months of their life. You've got to create a system that could be a very easily learned, quick learned system. So we've done that. We've done that, and part of the technology is we've created the importance of showing people that are artistic how to quickly and easily do accurate work in the first place, so the engineers don't go, oh boy, we got this and we got to make it work. That's the problem, is we have a system that fosters problems. And because there was no common knowledge base out there, we've created it. And with that, we have the hope of fixing that, which is one of the reasons that we won the 2010 Building Products of the Year awards.